changed. You always forget that bit. Okay. So welcome everybody. An official welcome to our webinar with Mark Howard, Dr. Mark Howard, who's sitting in a very, very hot California. So he's been telling me a bit of a heat wave over there. We've had ours here in Spain, I think, for a few days anyway. So yeah, this webinar is transforming your client work, the power of noticing. Great topic, I think. I was going to say to you, Mark, I think it's a wonderful topic. I think the power of noticing is so undervalued. We don't realize just what we've got going for us in terms of noticing. So I'm really curious to see what your take is on this and how you're going to.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Really looking forward to that. This is a preview to an upcoming 4-day retreat that we will be running here where I live in Albe, Spain. Towards the end, I think it's the 26th to the 29th of October. And I was kind of reflecting. I feel very fortunate indeed that I am able to spend lots of time in a couple of certain rooms here in Albe with wonderful teachers. And I don't want to sort of undervalue that either. There's something so special about being in person. I know some of you here on the webinar have been here, and hopefully you recognize the power of connection and being in a room together with other people who are looking in the same direction. So, you know, we're holding this in-person retreat, and we're doing it very Spanish style. We'll be having long breaks in the afternoon, so you can take advantage of the local scenery. We've got the beach, we've got lots of lovely walks, we've got mountain climbing. You won't be doing that in the afternoons, I wouldn't have thought, but it's all on offer here. So that's just a little snippet of what's on offer in October. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Dr. Mark Howard, just to say he's been around the block a bit.
A few times around the block.
He's recognised as being one of the very first teachers in the 3 principles, 1982, I believe, and over the years, I imagine, and I'm given the demand for you to be at 3P UK conference and our Viva event this year and running retreats here, there and everywhere, that you've got something very powerful to share with people. So over to you, Mark, and look forward to seeing what occurs today.
Oh, thank you, Sheila, and hello to everyone. Just nice to be back with you. This is quite a treat to come back and just share with you something that I learned along the way that I see to be very, very helpful in your health practice, whether it's coaching or therapy or whatever else health practice that you've developed. So it's just great to be back. And, well, when you talked about mountain climbing, for the retreat, that's not one of the exercises we'll be doing. There's no mountain climbing involved. Because as Sid said, you don't have to go to the Himalayas to find what you're looking for. So we're not looking to go to the mountaintops there in Albert to find understanding. I'm just trying to be funny. But it's true, we're not going to do mountain climbing. So I wanted to just kind of lay the groundwork to this idea of power of noticing. And along the way, the first couple of years, as we were looking to how can we efficiently share this understanding with people, that we're coming to find for ourselves. And we didn't meet often with Sydney Banks, but in one meeting, we kind of started to realize that, as he was saying, that you're guided by mind. You're guided by, let's say, the intelligence of mind in life. Really, the sole purpose is for you to be guided toward happiness, well-being, love, and understanding. So that's really what this energy you're a part of is moving you toward. But what we were able to also realize for ourselves is that it's there for you when you're with your clients. It's there for you when you're with your audience making a presentation. That intelligence of mind that Sid talks about is there guiding you in your work, you see. And you're never going to understand it intellectually. You have to just have faith that you are part of this energy and there's an intelligence guiding you really for what is in front of you, for your work or your relationships. Just an aside, there have been several insights through the years that have occurred to me from this intelligence, innate wisdom, we call it sometimes, that really showed me a way to be a better husband in my relationship. And it brought me an idea or an insight I had never thought of before about how to be in relationship to someone that I love. Well, it's also there for you in your work. And that's a big foundation for what we call listening, the listening piece, which is really just a consciousness of being able to hear your clients beyond your own personal thinking. You have to trust it's there. So along the way of my evolution of this understanding through the years, this power of noticing, I realized it. I learned that through the power of thought, we see things with our clients when they're with us. We observe things. You might call it observing, but it's not. You're not consciously observing. You just see. And at first, I was hesitant to really bring that to the discussion. I just didn't think that was, I don't know, I had, kind of, I guess, habitual thoughts about how to, you don't want to bring something personal to someone in a session. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. But I started to realize that that could be a rich source of your client gaining realizations and insights that allow them to really see something new about how they're operating in the world and in their relationships, and also how they're operating with you. And so, that was several months, that was several years into continuing to learn how to bring this understanding in my daily work with clients in a way that was helpful. I was always learning. I was always seeing more, and you too. There's always more to see and there's always more to learn. And if you're just open to that, you'll get these gifts. I got gifts riding home from my clinic where I was working for 28 years every day. Riding home, sometimes I would get a gift of, hey, you could have shared that, or you talked too much here, or you weren't listening there. And so it's just this ongoing evolution of you being able to share this understanding, I guess, more effectively your way, developing your voice. And it's for the rest of your life. So you want to stay open to the fact that you will discover. It's an ongoing discovery rather than getting judgmental because, you just noticed you weren't, able to do something, it's more, you're given your own self-observations, really. I guess you could say that, just noticing that today, that allows you to be reflective and get better at sharing with people. But anyhow, what do I mean by the power of noticing? Or I also made a video about sharing what you observe because I saw this in my own work. And then I started to see this with the health practitioners I was mentoring through the years. Well, it's really that you're going to see something. Your client's going to behave in their usual way with you. So they may not listen well in their lives. They may like yes, but people's ideas that are shared to them. They may not listen deeply to what you have to say. They may compare what's being said to ideas in their heads, what they've already learned. And they'll play that out in you with you some way, you know. And so, you know, so many times when I was teaching to groups, there would be a professional that would say something like, well, that's like Buddhism, you see, or that's like, I don't know, CBT, you know, some kind of approach that they had learned. And I didn't really know what to do with that first. At first, I would debate it. Now, I wouldn't think I was debating it, but it ended up that I was debating it, you know, because I was really saying, I was really implying, well, no, you're missing the boat, you know, but I would try to take it on. See, I would take it on and challenge. And I started to realize, finally, I started to realize that's not going anywhere. People are not really getting impacted by my response to, you know, they're making this comparison. And so what I started to see was, what I started to see, and one client taught me this. It's on the video that I share, that I've shared, but it's just coming to me now, so I'll share it with you. A client helped me see what I'm trying to share with you. So, um, so we would talk, and we would get to a nice, I would share something really at a nice feeling level about, let's say, the nature of thought, the power of thought, and how their thinking is playing into the issues they're dealing with, you know? And it felt right. You know, there was that, you know how when you share something, there's a nice feeling about it. And then he would say, oh yeah, that's like my teacher in India. You know what? I spent like a month in India and went to these meditation sessions with my teacher. And that's what my teacher was saying. So that would happen through the session. And I didn't know what to do with that, because the minute he did that, we lost the feeling of what I had shared. And I'm sitting there and I don't know what to do, you know. So uh, I'm just puzzled by, well, what can I say to this? You know, I'd say, well, okay. And then we come back and we talk some more. And I'd say, well, you know, you really have a wisdom that can guide you through that. And he said, oh, yeah, that's like this other spiritual teacher that I'm reading about. You know, he's got a great book. And then he would say to me, have you read the book? And so I left the session, and I really was puzzled. You know, I didn't know how to handle that, because um, it was taking us away from the depth of feeling that what I was sharing was coming from, but I didn't know how to talk about that, you know, how to say that, how to talk about that. I just knew that was happening. Well, again, you know, we're so blessed that if we stay reflective and just stay in wondering, what can I see about that? You're helped. And about 3 days later, I'm driving along and I just realized this guy's going sideways. And what I saw from that coming to me was I was speaking at a depth. I was going vertical. I wasn't so interested that this person saw his thinking. I was interested that this person felt that at an insight level, at a depth. Well, he took it and took it sideways. It didn't go vertical, it went sideways. So now he's not getting the power of us sitting with a truth about these principles or about how we operate spiritually, that we do create a reality we're living in through our thinking. We could go deeper if we look there, if he tried to take that in. But instead, he compared it to something he already knew. And of course, that didn't have any depth to it, because if something he had already learned, he had seen with depth, he wouldn't be coming to me for help. So I'm sitting in the car, this is occurring to me, and I just get filled with so much possibility. I just saw, this is it. This is how we can go deeper. I need to share this with him. And so I went back the next session and I said, before we start, it's just my way of sharing it. Before we start, I just realized something about how you are with me and what I'm trying to share with you. Is it okay with you if I share it? You need permission to really share something you're noticing. And so I did. I said, we had a chance when I was sharing with you about the nature of thought and your thinking to really look at that at a much deeper level where it could really touch you. The truth of that could really touch you. And what I noticed is the minute I shared that with you, when you looked at that, you went like what I call sideways. You started to compare that to these teachings you've been a part of. And it's taking you away from the feeling. Did you notice that? He said, well, I did notice that. I did notice that I lost the feeling. And then he realized, I do that. I do that. You're right. I do that. Every time I'm in a discussion with people, I go to all of my teachers. I quote them and I say, well, do you notice that when you do it here with me, it takes you away from you and me. It takes you away from the possibility of you and I really seeing something deeply. And now we're talking about something that's been a habitual pattern, a habit of his that gets in the way of his really taking in life, really. Because as we looked at it together, he was, we had a really good rapport. So he was able to look at it. Yeah, I do that with my spouse. I do that everywhere. I said, well, it's great that you see it, but let's talk about how you can listen differently so you really get some impact from the people around you. You get impact from you and I talking. It was very powerful. And we were able to really talk in a way where he was able to quiet that urge to bring in his teachings, the teachings he'd learned from, and really just try to stay quiet with me. It was very powerful because he had some really moving insights that changed his life. But him seeing that he had this habit that really interfered with taking in at a more depth, with more connection, everything around him, not only me and the truth of the principles, but his relationship to people around him, including his wife. That changed him. The power of noticing changes people. They kind of see, oh no, I did that. So it comes across to people when you share it from your humanness, not as there is something here that this person is defensive about. Like 40 in therapy would say, this is a defensive mechanism. If you looked at it that way, you would see there's something wrong with this person, or you'd have a lot of work to do with this person. But if you just shared human to human that in our relationship, you're doing this and you're missing, I'm not able to really feel connected to you. People will look. And when they look, they notice. They notice. When they notice, they've changed. So that's come to me. But I see it everywhere now that, you want to have the freedom that when you see something about how your clients are operating with you, if the rapport is good, you could invite them to take a look at it with you. So often, and particularly with all of the practitioners I've been mentoring, one of the common ways is people just kind of saying, yes, but. Oh, yeah, I hear what you're saying about thought, but, how can I practice this? You got a strategy for me? How can I go home today? And to me, isn't that so common? And so again, it's really helpful to begin to talk there rather than have to explain. It's good to talk there around how is it that you're so quick to do what I call a yes, but. Many times I've just pointed that out to clients. What I see you do right here with me is what I call a yes, but. And they go, oh, yeah, yeah, I do that. It's really when you're in a nice rapport and you're able to just be human with them and say, hey, I just saw this. Can we look here? Rather than talk about a strategy. People are open to that. Another example of this is I was doing a coaching demo at a Three Principles conference a while back. And so somebody came up to role play. Excuse me. And we were progressing. We were moving along. Not well, it is public because it was recorded. So he was just talking about how he really made the decision to divorce and how it has affected his young daughter, and how he wanted to get it right with his daughter. And we were talking about, kind of looking at separate realities. I just had that as a teachable point that came to me. And we're talking, and it just occurred to me, again, I noticed in me that I didn't feel connected to this person. It looked like they were making progress with understanding how thinking was getting in their way, that they felt so guilty that it was keeping them from finding a way to connect with their daughter and be more human with them. And we thought, oh, that seemed like an important area to look at. But I didn't feel like this was really what this person was experiencing there with me. And it wasn't formed in my head. So I just stopped and I said, can I share something that I'm observing here as we're talking? And he said, sure. And I said, well, what we're talking about seems to make sense. It seems to be helpful, but I'm not feeling that you're really connected to it, that it's really touching you deeply. And all of a sudden, tears started to come into his eyes, and he just said to me, yes, I'm really feeling sad, but I don't want to bring that out here in my role play. I said, well, that's the aspect of role play, is that you're here being who you are in the moment. He said, I just feel a tremendous sadness. Now, the minute he said that, I felt connected to his humanness, and so did he. And we could just talk about that sadness and speak about it together. And in a way that he could have understanding and be able to get the wisdom out of that. So that's another piece, it just occurred to me, I was no observing in me that there was a lack of connection here. And so you could see how rich it was once I went to take a look at it, to go and see with this person, share with them what I was noticing. Early on, as I was kind of looking at how will I go about bringing this into my therapy practice. At that time, I was doing psychotherapy. Coaching wasn't much of a professional approach in those years, as I was developing this power of noticing and how to introduce it. A professor from a university came to see me who wanted to deal with being angry. And so we talked about, again, the connection to the way they're using thought, that they just have these habits of, being judgmental, taking offense. And it looked like we were making headway, So he comes back the following session and he says, "Oh God, I really got what you were saying. I really saw how I wasn't angry, but he proceeds to tell me, well, I said, well, how's it going this week? How's it going with your upcoming classes? And he says, well, I called down to the book order department, the bookstore for my book orders, and they didn't have my order. And I start class next Monday. They have no paperwork that I put in. And I started to yell at the clerk, and I said, I put paperwork in months ago. Where? And I said, wait a minute here. Can I share something with you? Before you go on, you told me that you really got what we were saying and you were less angry this week, and you're angry. What's up with that? How can you share that you see something different and you were just caught up in your anger with this clerk? How's that an example of what I was sharing with you? I hope that isn't an example of, what I was, talking about with you, And he got all embarrassed. And he said, I don't know how he got to this point so quickly with me. I think he just really had a nice connection with me. He said, I just uh, uh, get embarrassed when I say I haven't learned anything yet. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I really haven't seen yet what you're saying. I said, oh, so when you came in and you told me, you understood what I was saying, this is just because you were feeling insecure about not knowing. He said, yeah. I said, wow, welcome to the human race. We're all in that boat of not knowing and then getting insecure about it. Can we talk there? So sharing what I noticed came from, let's talk about how thought creates anger, to something very deeply meaningful about his humanness, that it's uh, so hard for him to not know. He went on to say that growing up, he had to be the smartest person in his classes. Every class he went to, he had to, and I said, oh my goodness, you must have had a ton of pressure. He said, yeah, I did. I said, well, we got to get you out from under that. You don't need that in your life. It's just the way you learn to be. You see, now we're talking about something tremendously meaningful. We're not talking about principles and how they operate. We're talking about, well, we're talking about the truth of this understanding, but in a very meaningful way. So those are, just some examples and stories that I've seen throughout the years. Once I recognize that you will notice in different ways that people will be certain ways with you. They don't know that they're that way with you. They really don't know it at a level that they can really do something about it. But when you have a way to introduce to them that style they have, that habit they have, and are they open to taking a look at that? And you kind of, with your curiosity, ask them if it's something, some way they've been in other areas of their lives, and they start to recognize it and are open to being with you, to go beyond that, to just have a way to talk with you about that, and the two of you explore together. Because, when I went there with that professor, I didn't know what to say. I just said, this is rich. I'm so appreciative that you're able to share who you are with me. Let's look at it together, see what we can see that will help you. And now you're on this human to human, very deeply meaningful exploration. And one of you will see something. So I wanted to introduce this to all of you because I've seen in my mentoring that a lot of coaches or health practitioners are a bit hesitant to begin to explore what they're noticing, how their clients are operating with them. And they kind of usually are asking me, well, what do I do with that? So I wanted to just share with you, again, another aspect of the coaching process with this understanding, or the sharing process, whether you're making a presentation or whether you're in a group, or whatever it is that your programs are, you will see this from people. And depending upon how your listening is directing you, you might choose to go a little further with that person, inviting them to take a look at how they are with you. And where's that coming from? Do they want to do something about that? When you work here with people, it's powerful and very meaningful. Not that our sharing about the nature of thought wasn't powerful, but all of this habit was getting in the way of this person, of many clients taking that more deeply. So as Sheila mentioned, this is part of what we'll look at together in the retreat. There's so much about this listening piece. This is one aspect of it. It's really a consciousness you're living in that allows you to hear and be directed by the intelligence of mind. Because your mind, your clients are mind, your audience are mind. You're connected already. So if you're open to hearing the wisdom coming from what you are, it will guide you to find teachable moments that are really impactful. So this is one aspect of that whole area that we'll look at least one of the days that we're together. So I like this to be interactive, Sheila. So just checking in with you about whether we should open it up now for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't say that at the beginning, but yeah, if anybody has any questions, raise your digital hand or unmute yourselves. Okay, Matesh is, I hope I've said that right, Matesh.
Oh, Mate.
Straight in, Mate.
Mate, hey, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you both. Thank you for sharing. Um, Yeah, I really like this idea of noticing. And as I was listening, I remembered that sometimes, so this is just what I'm noticing with me. I tend to also notice how I am different with different people or groups. And sometimes I also mention that because it's really interesting for me, because I'm not used to being in a certain way with a certain person or group. And then also that is probably the same aspect, right?
Yeah. Can you give me just a short example of what you mean, how you're different with a group?
Well, I mean, if I have a conversation with someone and
Yeah.
I tend to be more like um, not anxious, but more like energetic in a certain way, or maybe like you said, you mentioned some emotions, maybe a bit angry, or um, I tend to have a conversation with a friend, and whenever I am with her, she usually is very judgmental towards other people, and I kind of get into that mode of being judgmental as well, and kind of start speaking about others and things like that. Um, and in
I
that
see.
sense, I mean, with this friend, I haven't done this, but this is just what I'm remembering right now. With her, I haven't done this, but with maybe some clients where it's more, um, that's why they're there. I tend to say what I'm noticing about me. And then sometimes this is also beneficial for them. So, and other times it's not, but
Well, you know, so for me, um, it's like it's just like you call it the best you can and learn from it. But for me, Mate, I try to quiet that reaction down. So if I'm getting a reaction, I try to uh, quiet that out of my mind. I don't want to be in my own personal thinking. Um, uh, because you do get into personal thinking when you're with clients, and one of the powerful aspects of listening to clients is that you could try to hear them beyond your own thinking. So if I notice I'm getting judgmental or I'm putting somebody in a category, I'm going to work to dismiss it, to go beyond it. One of the sensitivities for me is I grew up being trained in diagnosing people. And sometimes when I think somebody is difficult, a client is difficult, I'll get a, a I'll get a diagnostic thought in my head while I'm with them. I've got to quiet that down because now I'm looking at them from my thinking. I'm not hearing them. Now sometimes though, you could share how they're affecting you. That's how I would say it.
hmm.
When you talk like that, it seems like I get judgmental too. I get caught up in that judgmental thinking. Um, um, but do you notice that about people around you? But I really want to get back to the client being judgmental. Uh, I don't want to sit in my thinking when I'm listening. See, so now this is an evolution, an ongoing evolution. So my first year, I was, really, really practicing and quieting down, getting quiet and see the value that just recognizing I'm caught up in my own thinking. That reaction is my own thinking. And if I am in my own thinking, I'm not listening to my client, I'm listening to my thinking. And I just continue to evolve the truth of that understanding. So what I would do is usually just say, wow, when you're talking, again, with permission, all, but when you're talking with me, you really get into judgmental thinking. Do you want to take a look at that? What happens to you that you start to get judgmental? So, Mate, that's how I would look at it. Now, how I've shared with clients my humanness is sometimes I'll notice, oh, I'm talking way beyond what I know. Sometimes I'll realize that I didn't listen well, that I started to talk to people, talk to my clients before they really shared what they wanted. And I'll let people know that I'm doing that. And I'll usually say, um, sorry about that. I just realized I was talking way beyond what I really knew. Let's go back. Where were we? Or, sorry about that. I interrupted you. Let's go back. What did you want to tell me?
Mhm.
But, you just have to be careful, Mate, when you're in a coaching role. Um, um, to not engage your own thinking.
Mhm.
And, you do your best with that. And so, if you can't, you could just talk to your client about that,
Mhm.
you see? But you want to keep practicing to quiet down the thinking you get into when you're with clients.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me basically of this, because yeah, it is what you're saying.
It's always good. It really helped me. It wasn't me that came up with it. It was just a small group of people that we were learning together who came up with um, you think you're listening to the client, but you're really listening to yourself.
Yeah.
You want to always use that as a guide. You don't want to be listening to your own thinking.
Can I just have another just a small question? Do you sometimes invite clients to notice for themselves? So they are noticing about what they're noticing about themselves.
Well, sure. That's part of the invitation is for your clients to notice for themselves how they're operating with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have something that you'd like to share or ask about?
Joy.
Joy?
Yeah,
Hi, Joy.
hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much, Sheila and Mark, creating this space. And Mark, I just got so much from your sharing at the UK conference. I listened to it twice. I'm so glad to learn from you and the power of noticing. I think we overlook that. We think it's maybe just looking. And I'm really seeing that power. And not that I know about quantum mechanics, but I know a little bit that says the pure act of observing changes what you're observing. And I'm just wondering if you could speak about that. I find it fascinating.
I can't speak to it at the quantum physics level, First, thank you so much about the UK conference. That feeling in the room was just beautiful, the feeling of love. Well, of course, it does make sense though, doesn't it? That, the minute the minute your client takes a look at their thinking, what they're doing, they've already shifted. It's already a shift. The minute maybe you can't really live it yet, But the minute you look within to the operation of thought, you've shifted. You've already changed. So the act of looking does change you. Now, mind you, people don't see that. They don't appreciate they've already had a shift just by looking within themselves to their thinking. So when we look and invite people to say, hey, I'm seeing this when you're with me. It's just something that just keeps happening when you're with me. You keep like yes budding, you're not taking in much what I'm saying. Do you want to take a look at that? Do you think that's important to look at? The minute they look there, they're different. It's already changing them. You see? Because now they're looking, oh, wait, I do yes, but. So, or questioning, or looking for a strategy. I just was with somebody yesterday, someone who's runs a clinic. And so actually they were at the 3P UK conference. They talked with me. They asked me a question when I gave a talk. And yesterday they were doing the same thing with me that they did on those other two occasions. They said, oh, wow, I really got something. Is there some way that I can keep, in this understanding of this, And they did that with a question during my talk. So, but now we had a session, so I felt permission to say, well, can I share something about what you just asked? And they said, of course, And I said, well, look, you're wanting to get a strategy here. You're wanting to get a way that you can keep yourself at a level of consciousness, and it's impossible. Do you see that? Do you see that you're getting touched, and then you want me to give you something that will allow you to keep yourself there? And they said, yeah, I know. So now we're talking about this style he has to not trust that he got that feeling of getting something and staying reflective rather than trying to get it locked in intellectually. It was a very rich conversation. But the minute he looked there, he was different because now he was looking at what he was doing with his thinking. Before, that didn't matter. See, it didn't matter what he was doing with his thinking. He wanted to get the answer. Now we're looking at what is he doing with this habit that's keeping him from taking in more. So he's changed by looking in. Me too. That night that I first heard Sydney Banks, 41 years ago now, I changed because I looked within. The insight had me look within to the way I was thinking, creating feelings. That wasn't quite what it was, but I looked within for the first time. So I was a changed person. So yeah, when you invite someone to look at what you're noticing, the minute they look, yeah, they change. Now you have to help them appreciate these little small shifts because people don't appreciate. For most of us, it's a gradual evolution of understanding, and these small little shifts are things to celebrate. So that was a long answer too.
Yeah,
Joy.
I loved it. I loved it. And such a reminder of the simplicity. And I think I
Yeah.
have a new phrase that I'm going to be sharing is, what are you noticing?
Yeah.
Simple thing like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Theo. Hi, Theo.
Hey, Mon. Um, I I notice this tendency. I mean, I had it myself for a long time. I'm sure it still shows up. But at some point, I saw it kind of an antidote in myself in a way to it, and it's like coming from a place of seeking therapy or trying to be coached through therapy or kind of circumstances, and dealing with problems and stuff. And I see that when I'm working with people, often that is like a kind of a go-to place if they feel they want to see more, or they're like seeing something but there's a stuckness, and so it's like they bring up a kind of some way to bring it into something that feels more like therapy, and or like, yeah, looking at the offloading this kind of the story and getting into the personal more. And so I guess I want to find a way to skillfully, guide people in a way that I was touched, to see more of a base level of health, where I had this platform to stand on, that I didn't need to go there so much. And yeah, so that kind of conversation.
Well, I think you are already you're already set to have that conversation. Like, what you're sharing with me is the conversation you can have. I mean, you could, you know, talk about how what you're noticing is that it looks like something you used to do around wanting to bring in this aspect that's coming up in our discussions and make it more of a therapy kind of model. And you could share with them that what you see. And you could also share with them that you have a different understanding, that they can understand, that they can realize that can take them beyond doing that with you. So you already see how you already have what you could introduce to them, and you've already got your own personal story about what you see that you could point people toward, and what they're missing by trying to make this a therapy session.
And I also see that, like, I don't know that it's in my interest to like kill that or stamp it out, because I also see the value in in meeting somebody's story, or coming, finding a coachable kind of, place for impact through that. But at some point it wants to go, like, beyond that kind of tendency, maybe. Or
Well, there's something to see then too, as well. So you've got a way that you could introduce noticing and observation. You also have, what you're just sharing with me, this kind of tendency to want to go into that, and see what's coachable there. And so you just want to learn with that, I mean, you want to me, I mean, you want to hear a person's story so you get a flavor of what they might be up against. You want to make sure that, you hear their story enough that there's a rapport. You don't want to stop it without having a rapport. But no one's going to get insight by psychotherapeutic exploration of their story. They will get tremendous insight by you showing them what created the story, where that experience of the story is coming from. So the sooner you could find a way to have dialogue there, the more impact you're going to have. It's not the story. Now, again, through stories, you're going to see something probably that you can coach. That's fine. But you don't want them to go into it in a psychotherapeutic way, because nothing in terms of a psychotherapeutic insight and so forth can reach the level at which a person can live once they realize where their experience of that story is coming from. And also that keeping it alive does nothing for them. You know, so real quickly, because I want to get to Peter before we need to stop. You know, people come in a lot of times depressed and talk about feeling very guilty, you know, and sometimes I might see a teachable moment in that, but mainly what I'm trying to do is help people, is get rapport first, and then kind of help stop. I stop people and kind of say, you know, I think what would be more helpful is if we can talk in a way that you're okay, that you can have understanding and forgiveness for yourself, rather than keep thinking of yourself in such a judgmental way. Can we look at that? Can we look at you having understanding for all of the things you're judgmental about now, rather than be judgmental? So as soon as I can, I want to go point people to the power of thought. So I hope that was helpful, Theo. I just want to go to Peter before we need to stop here. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Mark. And
good to see you, Peter.
Yeah, likewise. And thank you, Sheila, for setting this up. I'm just sitting here like a child overjoyed with the question that Joy asked and what you said in response. And I mean, I'm an engineer by original background. I've come across this idea that in quantum physics, the observer changes the thing being observed. But this evening, I've seen the connection with the three principles and the power of noticing. It's in play there. Yeah. That is really exciting. So I really just wanted to say a huge thank you to you for what you said, and Joy for even raising the topic. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, you know, to just share with you all how beautiful the intelligence of mind works, and how much you and I can find if you join us in Spain. I didn't see that until Joy asked the question. I did not see that. In listening to Joy, I saw the answer. It was given to me. Mark Howard did not create that answer or have it before Joy asked the question. So that's the beauty of what we are really a part of. And if we can listen beyond our own thinking, what's there for us. And so that's why Sheila and I wanted to provide this for you, because we want all of you to really embrace the power you have and the thrill of discovery. Like every moment in your work is a thrilling discovery. So I didn't know the answer when Joy was asking the question. I thought, oh my God, quantum physics. And then I quieted, and then I saw how it fit. So that's what all of us are a part of. So thank you all. It was just great to be able to talk with you again. And Sheila, it's just wonderful to be able to have another, hour with people.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for being here. There is one question left in the chat, but I know we're going over time, but it's entirely up to you. I've just put the link in the chat to the page where people can find out about the retreat. We have, what I didn't mention at the beginning is we've drastically reduced the price, and we have changed the dates slightly. So worth going and having a look. we have an early bird till the end of the month, and we'd love for you to come hang out with us in our beer. So Estelle has posted in the chat, I don't know if you can see it, but she says, Mark, I love what you said about celebrating our wins. Could you please share about how the feeling of belonging develops as a result of all these small shifts in understanding the principles, and how it is powerful to point at all these small wins, small shifts with people?
Well, you know, how I take that is to me, the more I understood Sydney Banks' teachings, and particularly waking up to mind, I felt a part of everything. I felt connected, you know, so that may be what you mean by belonging. It wasn't a feeling of belonging, because the minute, you know, you have a sense you're one with every living creature, you don't have any idea of needing to belong because you're there, you know. So, you know, it's kind of a paradox, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but that's how so you're right. The more, for me, the more I had understanding of what I am, what I am a part of, how I have these gifts to know life, to deepen my love and understanding for the people in my life, I felt more connection. I felt more closeness. You know, couples always talk about wanting to feel closer to one another and have more intimacy. The intimacy and closeness is a spiritual connection, is waking up to the connection they have to one another from their understanding of these principles, not getting the other person to do what they think is right, you see. So so yeah, as I went around with more understanding more, I felt just more part of life, just quite naturally part of life. And each time in particular I brought that into my personal life, I was closer to the people around me, my family and friends and colleagues. So
Yes.
you do get feeling you're part of everyone.
Yeah.
And you know, yes, you know, when you know, the only reason I talk about helping your clients understand that they have shifted, even in this way of, well, you're looking in, that's a shift from what you normally do. Helps people start to appreciate the possibility that they can really live beyond their insecurities, and to begin to look for small little things, even with the people around them, to appreciate that, you know, it's just a gradual learning. Because people tend to overlook it. That's another thing of the power of noticing. Real quickly, I know, really running over time, but things keep coming to mind for me. That's another power of noticing. People will share with you, and you'll see that they got something, and then they'll go on to the next thing right away. And so helping them see, wait a minute here, hold on, look what just happened. You just had this beautiful understanding. To me, it was beautiful what you just shared. That's the truth. You saw the truth of what you and I are wanting to discover. You need to stay there. You need to nurture this like a garden. So that's something so valuable for people, if you could point that out to them, because people just think, okay, I got that, now let's go to wait a minute, I got to go over here and take care of this. No, you got to stay with what you found. Let that direct you.
Yes. And Mark, if I may.
Pardon me?
If I may, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Also, what I like about this in celebrating our wins, it's how we look at what's right and we cultivate this with the client. Like we put our attention on what's work and what's right, and yeah, and not what's wrong, as opposed to, you know, what's wrong with you. And yes, and so it takes, because it takes some time to change the habits in people, like some time. You know, as we go deeper into the understanding, the principle of mind just grow and changes us as we understand deeper the principle. And so we regain that energy, but it's a sort of a process when we don't have these habits. And so as we go deeper, we can focus more, we are more intentional, it's more meaningful, yeah. And I think it's good to celebrate all these little shifts each time, to celebrate that with our clients, the people we work with.
Yeah, I'd say just a couple of things really quickly. There's so much here with
Yes.
what everybody's brought up. One is I don't direct people to attend. I talk to people about just nurturing, and whatever you've seen will come back. If you forget it, it'll come back to you. You'll never forget what you've seen. Celebrating, like you say, these shifts are very important because people overlook it. And you never know, you never know. You want to be careful, Estelle, about it takes time to change your habits. You want to be careful with the idea of taking time, because Sid has a great video out there called Jumping Time. So look for that. It's also in one of the seminar videos, Hawaii lectures or Long Beach lectures. There's a chapter on jumping time. And he talks about how, with all of us, with our understanding, we've jumped 50 years ahead of the fields of coaching and the fields of psychology. So, Estelle, I just want you to be careful that you don't put time there for your clients, because your clients might jump way beyond their habits, way beyond it. Now, typically, it looks like they have to evolve their understanding, but when you're with them, you don't want to be thinking that way, because they could jump way beyond you. They could bring in an understanding that shifts you. But there's so much more to share with this. But I love that you're lurking to celebrate people shifting, seeing something, because it's so easy for people to downplay it. Well, thank you all. Again, it's just been great to be with you, and it's just been very special to come back for a second webinar. So thank you, Sheila, for setting this up, and us together looking to bring this to people.
I'm muted. Thank you everybody for being here with us live, and there will be a recording going out tomorrow, all being well, tech working and all that. And thank you for your questions and your interaction. And Mark, I've learned a lot. Thank you for reminding me of the simplicity. Somebody mentioned that earlier on, and I think that's just what my biggest takeaway is, reminding me once again just how simple this is. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, day, wherever you are. We'll see you again soon, hopefully.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.